Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good day, good evening. China Observer time of SPF. As you can see, the speaker is in uniform. He's from Japan Maritime STF. Our speaker today is Mr. Keitaro Ushirogata, Captain Ushirogata, from Staff College of Maritime SDF. He has a special credential. Originally, he was a seaman. But how to put it? Maha of Reiwa? Or maritime strategy. When it comes to maritime strategy, his name is well known in the United States. He is the authority of a strategy, maritime strategy, in MOD or the Maritime Self-Defense Force. So we don't have many PhDs. He's got a PhD. Captain has a PhD, and overseas Australia Navy, he was a visiting professor, visiting a research fellow at the Australian Sea Power Institute. So he is the authority on maritime strategy. Captain Ushirogata is our speaker. So he will be talking about current state of nuclear capability of the People's Liberation Army, a comparison with Russian de-escalation strategy. Dr. Ushirogata, thank you very much. Yamamoto-san, you are a great senior. Thank you very much for inviting me. I am Ushirogata from Staff College, MSDF. As was mentioned, the other day, I contributed an article regarding the comparison with Russia's de-escalation strategy. I'd like to offer my explanation regarding that article. May I interject my comment? The reason why we asked him to write this article, or the reason why we invited him today, one of the reasons is that on the 20th of May, there was an inauguration ceremony of a president of Taiwan. On the same day, the Chinese ambassador in Japan had invited opposition political leaders, and there was a discussion about Taiwan issue. If you do anything against China's will, Japanese people will be put to the sea of flame. I think this phrase was carried in newspaper articles. Last year, at the end of last year, at Japan Press Club, he delivered a similar statement. I am one of the so-called experts on security. So when it comes to a threat, you have intention, you have a capability. It is not addition, it is multiplied. The threat multiplied by capability. You can threat, you can blackmail, you can bluff, whatever you want to. But if you don't have the capability, it doesn't constitute a threat. Even if you have a high level of capability, if you don't have an intention, there is not a threat. But if intention and capability are in place, it becomes a threat. I learned it from my early days of my study. So Chinese ambassador's statement this time was that missiles are in the possession of China, which can be targeted against Japan, and nuclear weapons with a nuclear capability. China has that. And the ambassador from that country said that if anything happens, Japanese people will be placed in a sea of flame. So it means that they've got intention and capability in place. Is it really a threat? Isn't it a really threat to Japan? That is one of the reasons why I invited him today. So bearing that in mind as well, you have written the article, so can you explain the outline of your article? Thank you very much. As Mr. Yamamoto said, that was widely reported in Japan. What is a Chinese nuclear strategy? They have no first use, and they always say limited use of nuclear weapons since the days of Mao Zedong. China is saying that. Is it truly so? I am not a China expert. I'm an person analyzing the military strategy, and I have written the article comparing the Russia's de-escalation. As you know, Ukraine war started February 2 years ago. 2 years have passed, and during this period, President Putin was one of the leaders, and as necessary, the limited use of nuclear weapons have been time to time suggested, and that was the blackmailing the NATO leaders. It is called the de-escalation strategy. Maybe it is misnomenclature. It is de-escalate to escalate. So once you blackmail nuclear, you issue nuclear blackmail, and then you expand escalation. And the opponent, the counterparty, is surprised. And regarding the situation, they will back off. And because your opponent backs off, you will tone down your threatening remarks in going into the negotiation. That is the target. Well, what do you mean is that Ukraine war, if you translate it into Ukraine war, NATO, US, if they do some assistance, military assistance to Ukraine, it may lead into nuclear wars. That is President Putin's bluff, which is impacting US and NATO leaders, and they will have the psychology that they must not expand the situation to nuclear wars. For example, long-range missiles are provided, and it could be the trigger for nuclear weapons. I think it was the statement by Medvedev. So then the line should not be crossed with the long-range missiles. So little by little, NATO's side has expanded the range of assistance. So as of now, it is bluff and blackmail. But is it going to lead into the actual use? Nuclear weapons cannot be used so casually. I think that is what is the intent of the current statement, but we don't know about the future. You can use it, you have the capability to use it, but the actual use is something that's quite distant, and there is a huge distance between the capability and actual use. So, but you don't know about the future. In Ukraine war, to NATO side, nuclear blackmail is issued by Russia, but at the backdrop is the Russia has a very high dependence upon the nuclear weapons, conventional warfare. So they have to depend upon the nuclear forces. So during the Cold War, the Warsaw Pact had the superiority in conventional force, but now NATO is very strong in conventional warfare. So when Soviet was strong, U.S. First sought Eisenhower administration, massive retaliation strategy, new look strategy was another word for it, and then John F. Kennedy administration, flexible response became the strategy. What is a flexible response? So stage by stage, nuclear weapons will be used, and then a situation will be controlled, and then it will deter the opponent. I think the same thing is the target of Russia today. That is my understanding. Now then, what about China? So this is how I go into the China story. To be honest with you, what I understand about China is very limited. Mr. Yamamoto, you know much better. Every year, U.S. DOD issues an annual report regarding the annual report on military capability of China, and it has more than 200 pages. But when it comes to nuclear strategy, including photographs, there are only 12 pages dedicated to nuclear strategy. So much so, the what we know is limited. So if I follow the outline, China in 1964, they became the successful weapon state, a nuclear state. So they will not be able to have capability on par with the US or NATO. The nuclear force would be limited, and it will have to accomplish the deterrence against the US. So nuclear policy was not identified even today. It is only estimation of the number of warheads. It is quite different from Russia or the US. No first use. That is the absolute principle. China will not use it for the first strike. When they are attacked with nuclear weapons, they will defend themselves, and then by retaining the retaliatory capability, they will be able to protect and prevent the nuclear warfare. So minimum retaliation strategy was a strategy China took in the beginning. But we don't know for sure. Nothing is explicitly explained. So last year, U.S. DoD's annual report, according to that report, rapidly Chinese nuclear capability expanded. Up until 3 years ago, the operational warheads would be about 201 to 250, but by 2030, it will exceed the number of 1,000 warheads. As of now, it is said that they have about 500 warheads, according to the estimation. Furthermore, policy-wise, they are very careful. They will not use it for the first time. They will not do it the first. So launch on warning, that is what they say. So if they receive the warning, they will immediately respond with launching. Now, from our side, up until now, we had the recognition. The opponent will launch missile, and then this missile was a nuclear missile or ordinary missiles, we don't know. And then ordinarily it lands, and then if there's damage, and actually, clearly it is a nuclear missiles, then it will react. But according to your explanation now, missile is launched, and there is a warning that the missile was launched. For example, North Korea launched missiles. A J alert is issued. At that stage, they will retaliate. Launch on warning means that. But once a missile is launched, automatically the missile is not launched from China. ICBM, it's nuclear ballistic missiles. If there is a high likelihood from the flying patterns, if there is a high likelihood that it is a nuclear missiles, then they will launch their own missiles. That is the concept of launch on warning. So this is the quick response capability, and they are enhancing this capability very much in recent times. But on the other hand, so recent times, Chinese rocket force has increased their capability. DF-31, DF-41, it is the ICBM, Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, JL-2. JL-3 is also being developed. SSBM. So strategic submarine will go undersea. We don't know where it is. And then from submarine-launched ballistic missile will be launched in retaliation. So JL-2, JL-3. So most of them are strategic nuclear weapons. In other words, targets are U.S. continent. Yes, and it will lead into massive damage. So it is not pinpoint force retaliation. Now, Rolls report is issued. In this Rolls report regarding strategic nuclear, there is a detailed analysis, so I hope that you will refer to this Rolls report. Xinjiang Uyghur, more than 300 ICBM silos are established. It is confirmed by satellite imagery. Basically, it is a strategic nuclear, but de-escalation policy uses tactical nuclear weapons. What is the definition of strategic and tactical nuclear weapons? It will take more than 30 minutes to explain. So, to pinpoint attack on a specific force or unit, that is the tactical nuclear weapon. But the strategic nuclear weapon is different. So non-strategic or tactical nuclear weapons. To what extent do they have it? We don't know. So according to the U.S. Annual Report or CIPRI's yearbook, if you read these documents, it is in small number, but they have. And one is a DF-26, a medium-range ballistic report. According to DOD's report, it is nuclear warhead is loadable, and it has the agility and stealthiness. So DF-26, about 5 to 6 warheads, and then they have the 160 or so missile launchers. Two-thirds are loadable with the nuclear warheads. I don't know the source of this information. It is only estimation. So about 54, one-third of 150. So non-strategic tactical nuclear weapons, Russia inherited that. So the missiles is loadable with the nuclear weapons. So only in Navy, they have a lot of tactical weapons. But China doesn't have that in large number. So China has many territorial conflicts with the neighboring countries. Russia used to blackmail to invade these countries, but China is not using it like that. So the conventional force escalation from that, so there is a nuclear threshold. There is a big difference between Russia and China.
Thank you. As was introduced, analysis of current status of China's strategies, nuclear force enhancement using satellite imagery, Sasakawa Peace Foundation, Ohara Senior Fellow, and Yu Koizumi Senior Fellow, jointly with Roles of University of Tokyo and SPF, made a joint research to write this article. SPF webpage provides a link to download these, and soon we will start providing the English version. So if you have time, please refer to that later. Captain Ushirogata, so you mentioned that it is true that China and Russia are different. I feel that they are different. But in Japan, and to try to understand China from my position, it's difficult to say that, yes, I understand. As you have said, China's nuclear capability and nuclear strategy, there are many things unknown that we cannot understand. But actually, they're increasing the number of missiles, as you have mentioned. Besides strategic nuclear weapons, are there dozens or hundreds? We don't know. And they say they will put Japan into a sea of flame. So what does that mean? In case of a Russia-Ukraine law, if Japan was Ukraine, will the United States protect Japan using the nuclear weapons against the bluff of a threat from China? If Taiwan was Ukraine, Japan is one of the like-minded countries of NATO, like France, Hungary, or Germany. But to support Taiwan, or not really supporting Taiwan, but if Japan takes an action, will Japan hesitate or not to take any action? Keeping that in mind, are they making a bluff? When I think in that way, I get confused. I cannot understand. Then from the American perspective, as you have mentioned, could you deeply mention your views related to that? Yes, maybe there are 2 or 3 points that I can answer. One is the conclusion in this article. The United States, under Trump administration, they made a nuclear posture review, and the Trident missiles, submarine-launched ballistic missiles, armed with low-yield nuclear warheads. A version of making it for non-strategic purpose was established, and technically speaking, I don't think it is difficult. And like a Tomahawk missile, there were cruise missiles. Under Obama administration, they were all decommissioned. And to start something similar to that, what they call SLCM nuclear armed sea-launched cruise missile. That was what President Trump was saying, but the Biden administration canceled the cruise missile. Under DoD and U.S. forces, there were objections, but President Biden canceled. I don't know what is the real reason, but I assume there are two reasons. One is that looking at Russia, NATO is overwhelmingly superior compared to Russia in terms of conventional capability. So limited use of nuclear, not just blackmail, but even if they use, it is possible to retaliate using their superior conventional forces. If it is used against Ukraine, Europe will be affected with contamination, so in NATO there's reason to interfere. So it's possible for them to do so. And another point, in case of China, I understand what you said, Mr. Yamamoto, but basically China's military strategy is A2AD, anti-access area denial strategy, or also to make more aircraft carriers and other equipments, and to locally be superior to the United States or equal to the US in some areas. For conventional forces, it is important to be able to respond using conventional forces. There is no need of establishing a nuclear option. I imagine that is the assumption of a Biden administration. So based on such an assumption, I think there is a rationale. And in case of Japan, of course, Japan is not a member of NATO, but is an ally to the United States. And there is a mechanism of expanded deterrence. We say a nuclear umbrella, not just an umbrella, that only would be too weak. There may be room for China to interfere. I don't know what is the intention of a statement by the ambassador, but there may be a political message. But we should avoid being affected by their political message. And NATO, they say that is a nuclear alliance, nuclear weapon states, US, France, UK, but also Germany or Belgium, Netherlands, Italy are said to have American nuclear warheads. So non-nuclear weapon countries like Czech and other countries in Europe, is that only an umbrella? No, that is not enough. They say steadfast no. There is a strategic fighter near nuclear mission from the United States, and Poland or Czech gets on a defensive mission, Snowcat, a supportive nuclear weapon with conventional weapon. They call it a Snowcat. So non-nuclear states using their own asset to support the nuclear mission. That is what they do. And similarly, are we going to do that? I don't know. But I think there are many approaches in Japan. My image is that last month or the month before that, strategic fighters from the US came, I think it was last year, on the sea above the Japanese sea, and the SDF fighters and Korean fighters flew together over the Sea of Japan. Is that the image? The surrounding countries, from the perspective of the surrounding countries, they may interpret it to be something similar. From the Chinese perspective, I think that is how they will interpret. expanded deterrence is not just to be under the nuclear umbrella of the United States, but the trust among allies are to be enhanced. We must do efforts to enhance mutual trust. I think that is one of the points. Yes, thank you very much. In particular, at the College of the SDF, you do research these subjects in recent years. How are we going, our activities, our behavior, how should that be communicated as we intended to others, and the activities or statements of others, how should we interpret them, are also very important. So the statement of a Chinese ambassador and many other people talk about the Chinese nuclear capability and nuclear strategy in many places. And what is China trying to tell us? We must firmly analyze that. And from our side, we should avoid something wrong from happening. So we must cooperate with United States and the allies, and also avoid sending a message that would be misunderstood by China. I understand that very well, but still there are many things about China that we cannot yet understand. So in particular about how to use the nuclear weapons, what are their perspective, or what Japan and the US are trying to do, what the like-minded countries are trying to do, how do they interpret our behavior? We don't want to be misunderstood, or are we trying to be misunderstood? I think we must clearly think about the intention of the message. Though time was short today, we had with us Captain Ushirogata, Senior Research Fellow of JMSDF Commandant Staff College, an expert of China affairs, with us to talk about Chinese nuclear strategy and nuclear capability. There are still many things we cannot yet understand. I hope we can continue to have your cooperation as China Observer. We want to further pursue this subject in depth. Thank you very much. Thank you.